Hey guys, welcome back into Jujubee DIY. I'm Sarah. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Today is the Fourth Friday challenge that I host every month with my friend Lisa over at our gray house. Today's projects are actually a Fourth Friday flashback for me. I had an insanely busy week and didn't get a chance to get into my craft room. But instead of bringing you no video, I decided to go and grab some of my very favorite projects from last spring and Easter and to share them with you. And since I was such a new crafter last year, I think probably most of you haven't seen these projects yet. So if you want to see what I made and how I made it, stay tuned. So for this first DIY, we're going to use scrapbook paper. I picked out some 12 by 12 pieces of scrapbook paper that I liked that gave me that spring feeling vibe. I cut them down to 2-inch strips, and then I cut those 2-inch strips down into 2-inch squares. And I arranged them on my mat there so that I had them all at hand. And now I'm going to start gluing them on. Now I really like to use the Gorilla glue stick for projects like this. I do not have luck with the school glue. I know a lot of crafters do and they really love it, but that school glue to me, it just breaks down so quick in not a lot of time. So it feels like it's, you know, coming off of whatever I've stuck it to in just a couple of months. And I don't really like that. I want my projects to last a little bit longer. So I prefer to go in with the Gorilla Glue Stick. It has a nice strong hold. And so far I've had projects that have lasted more than a year using just this glue stick, not having any Mod Podge or anything over the top. So I really do recommend this glue stick if you're having a hard time with the school glue staying on your, you know, keeping your stuff on your projects long term. And some people may not be having too many problems with it. It could just be that I live in the Pacific Northwest where it is very moist all the time, and that might be breaking it down a little bit faster. So once I had all of my paper on and glued, I'm going to go over the top of it with some Mod Podge. And then once that's dry, I'm going to use my box knife and just cut along those edges. Then I'm going to use some sandpaper to clean up anything that's left over. I want my bunny edges to be very clean and crisp, and I love the way that I can get that with the sandpaper. So I just rub that sandpaper in like a 90-degree angle or so along the very edge of the bunny, and that just cleans it up nicely. So you might notice that there are places where maybe the glue didn't get stuck quite well enough. So just go in with a paintbrush and your Mod Podge and just glue those areas down. And then if you want to give this another coat of Mod Podge, definitely go for that. I don't think I did. I think this was just one coat of Mod Podge, but I did go around and make sure everything was stuck down really well. Now every bunny needs a super cute fluffy tail, and since I didn't have any pom-poms or cotton balls on hand, I decided that I just needed to make one. So I'm using one of those car cloths from the Dollar Tree. You know, the ones that we're using at Christmas time for snow? That's the same one here. And I just traced around with a spool of ribbon just to get a good circle size. Like the Sharpie marker won't show in the end, so if you want to just use whatever marker you have on hand to mark that out, it will be perfectly fine. And then you're just going to cut your circle out. And once you have that all cut, you're going to thread a needle and you're going to make a running stitch all along the outside edge of your circle. So a running stitch is just taking your needle, going down through the fabric, and then coming back up a little bit further ahead. So you can kind of do this in little batches like you see I'm doing here before you pull it up. So you can make quite a few stitches and then pull your thread through. And as you go around, you can see that it starts to cup up that circle. So that's the start of our tail. Then I'm going to use some polyfill, or if you have pillow stuffing or whatever kind of stuffing you use. Some people use scraps of fabric. Whatever you have to stuff your little bunny tail, go for it. And then you're just going to stuff it until you are happy with how fluffy it is. And then you'll pull that thread and knot it off. And then we'll just add a little bit of hot glue to our bunny bottom, because we are making this a bunny back. And you'll just put your pom-pom right on. So like I said, if you have a not a Q-tip, don't put a Q-tip there. But if you have a pom-pom or a cotton ball, definitely use that if you want to instead of making one. But I love how this little bunny turned out. To me, it is just super country cute. Okay, for our second Easter DIY, we're going to use some of these Dollar Tree DIY ornament carrots. I'm going to go ahead and paint the carrot tops green. This won't show too very much, but you'll want to pick a green that coordinates with whatever color ribbon you're going to use. And you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. In the meantime, we're going to use some of our glue stick and some scrap paper to cover the base of our carrots. And I just had this scrap paper in my stash, so I have no idea where it came from. I think it was part of a paper pad, but just go to the craft store if you don't have orange scrapbook paper, and you'll be able to find lots of orange options there. So then I'm just going to trim the paper off close to the edge, and then use that sanding technique with a emery board, because that's what I had on hand. And I'm going to clean up those edges. Now here's the part where we're going to add some ribbon. So as you can see, my green matches that ribbon fairly close. It's not an exact match, and it doesn't have to be an exact match because for the most part that green isn't going to show through. But just in case a little bit does here and there, you've got it covered. So I'm going to use this green gingham ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue it down, and then I'm going to loop it back up and then back down again. And we're just going to create some new little greens for our carrots. So I loved how this turned out. I thought it was just a super cute idea. And at this point last year, I hadn't seen anybody doing carrots like this. So I just kind of was winging it because I didn't really have anybody else that I'd seen do this. So I just, like I said, it's not super hard or rocket science or anything, but you just loop it up, glue it, loop it down, glue it, and then just kind of move over. So you just move over just a teeny tiny bit for your next loop. And I think you guys can probably see pretty well what I'm doing there. So once I get my carrot top complete, I'm just going to trim that off, and then I'm going to add some of the Walmart white twine around the base of the carrot just to hide our raw edges on our ribbon. And then I'll string these on to some more of this twine and make it a little tiny mini banner, and I just love how these turned out. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, today is the 4th Friday challenge. This is a monthly challenge that Lisa and I host, and every month we change the theme. This month's theme is Easter and spring. And if you've never been over to Lisa's channel at Our Gray House, make sure you go check her out. She is awesome and amazing and a wonderful crafter, and I think you guys will really enjoy her style. And as always, we have amazing crafters joining us on this playlist. So I will link both Lisa's channel and the playlist down below so you can go check out all the amazing creations from these wonderful crafters. All right, now we're moving on to a couple of spring projects. So I'm going to use polymer clay for this project, and if you've never used polymer clay, it is super easy to work with, pretty cheap, and a lot of fun. So if you've never tried polymer clay, definitely give it a try. It is a really fun medium to work with. I really enjoy it. And there's so many great tutorials out there. You can make all kinds of really fun stuff with polymer clay. But today I'm gonna make some eggs. So I take off a bit of that clay, rub it in between my fingers, work it so that it becomes soft and pliable, and then I'm gonna roll it into a ball, and then I'll kind of roll that ball out into an oval shape. But I want that oval shape to be a little more narrow at the top and wider at the bottom. And if you haven't guessed yet, we're making some little eggs. So I do one in white, one in this tan color, and one in the peach color. And I do 2 of each color. And you just follow the instructions on the packaging for baking it. Next, we're going to use some fancy teacups. I picked these up at my local thrift store for a great bargain. And they always have so many of the fancy teacups, which is so sad to me because, I feel like that's probably, people's china from back in the day when it was like coveted to have china and it was kind of a status symbol. And now we're just kind of like, I'm going to eat off a paper plate today. I don't have time for china. You know what I mean? But I mean, there's so much china and beautiful dishware at my local thrift stores, and I love to go there to pick up cups like this. So with that said, moving on, we're going to use some of the Spanish moss. This is just from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just kind of shape it into a nest. So I'm just going to work it until it kind of has that bowl shape. And if I need to add a little bit of hot glue here and there to create and maintain that shape, then I do that. And then I'll just give it a little trim with some scissors, and super messy, but really fun to get to just play and, create something very organic. So this is dried baby's breath that I'm cutting off, and I'm just adding into my nest because, birds, they add all kinds of stuff into their nests to create them. I'm going to also add in some of this little like lavender from the Dollar Tree. It's that kind of frosted lavender. I just really like the way that looked, and I thought it would look really nice with the green baby's breath. So then I just wanted to check and make sure that my nest fit in there, and once I was happy with it, I'm just going to throw a whole bunch of hot glue right down into that cup, and then I'll just kind of place my nest in there. So once my eggs were baked and cooled, I'm just spackling on some black paint with that fan brush. And then I'll just go in and add some hot glue into the nest, and I'll place 3 of the eggs into this cup. So if you saw my last video, you might recognize these flowers, but they are just little paper flowers that have a sticky back to them. I grabbed them at a local craft store, but you can pretty much get flowers like this at any craft store, or you can make them if you have a Cricut, or you can make them by hand by just cutting out paper and rolling the paper up, or you might have something else you want to stick in there instead. So now I wanted to create a banner to go inside my cup. So I am going to create this banner shape, and basically it is a very loose S. So I'm just going to cut that out, and I just am putting that on craft cardstock. Nothing fancy. Now I want to create that fishtail for my banner. So how to do that is you take your scissors and you make about a 1/4 inch cut up the very middle, and then you're going to cut from the outside edge to the top of that middle cut, and that'll take off a couple of little triangles and create that banner look. It's a very easy way to do that. And now I'm going to stamp on the word spring with these letter stamps that I've had in my stash for a very long time. But these are really super easy to find if you keep your eyes open. Thrift stores, garage sales, people are getting rid of these things all the time. And I like to have a set in my stash. And then I will just place that right into my little teacup on my nest, and it's so cute. Next, I'm going to create a hanger. So I'm just using some jute twine for this, and I'm just going to do a lark's knot around the handle, and then I'll tie it off at the top. And this will hang on a bar. So you can hang this like if you have window rods or someplace where it can just kind of hang. But I think that these are beautiful. I love the way they look, and I think that they look like spring. Just those little areas where, you know, birds just make nests anywhere and everywhere. So this next project is one of my very favorite projects. I adore how these turned out. I was definitely inspired by Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs. She had done ones that were little bunny heads, but I took it a little bit further. So to get started, you're going to need 2 of these little wood round pieces. They are about 1.5 inches across, and you can pretty much pick those up at any craft store, so super easy to get a hold of. And then some jute twine, and I like this jute twine. This is from Walmart. It's a little more thick. It's thicker than the Dollar Tree and more even. So sometimes with the Dollar Tree jute twine, it can get really thin and then really thick, and I prefer, when I'm doing something like this, to have it all kind of the same size. So I'll do this covering to both of those wood rounds, and then I'm going to glue them together. Now I need to create my ears. So I'm going to measure off a little bit of jute twine, and I'll cut off 2 pieces, and then I'll add a little bit of hot glue to one end of the cut side, and then I'll glue the other cut end together. So you're just going to create kind of a teardrop shape, and then we're going to glue our teardrop onto whatever we want for the ears. So I chose this really cute pink lace that I had in my stash. I think it came from Walmart, and I'm going to trim down the outside edges. So all we see is the pink in the middle, and then I'm going to hot glue our ears to the back of the head, just like that. Now I wanted to add a little bow in that same lace, so I'm just doing a very basic bow here, and I'm just going to, you know, work with it until I get it how I like it. Now I wanted to create a stand for our bunny, so I'm going to hot glue a tumbling tower block to the back. But as you can see here, that it's not glued at the bottom. It is gapped a little bit, so I kind of glued it at an angle to make it stand. But look at these 2 cuties. I love how they turned out, and you can do so many different combinations with colors. So for this project, I wanted to use this church. It was from the Dollar Tree, and it was on this stand, but I didn't really want the stand. So I set to work and I took it off of the stand, and it wasn't the easiest to feet in the world. I do have to admit that, but a little bit of elbow grease and my box knife, and we got it taken care of. So just to be careful if you do this project, you know, use your safety measures with your box knives and all that kind of good stuff. Now we're going to take this canvas. I had given it a base coat of the Waverly chalk paint in plaster, I believe. And then I'm going to go in on top, and I'm going to dry brush a couple of different colors. I really love this kind of streaky look. It is an artistic, a lot of artists do it. I don't know what to say, but like a lot of artists do it. It's a style, artistic style. That's the word I was looking for. It's an artistic style, and I really like this style. So if you need inspiration on colors, or you know, want some inspiration on that kind of style, go check out Pinterest, because oh my gosh, guys, I'm so sorry, I can't talk. Go check out Pinterest because you'll be able to find a lot of inspiration with that style. All right. And I'm going to leave that all in there because I've already recorded this like 10 times. I literally cannot speak tonight. So Now with the church, I also went in with the plaster color and I painted it, and then I went on the roof line with a little bit of gray, and now I'm taking a dry brush and some brown paint and I'm just making it look like weathered wood. So very lightly adding that color in up and down motions along the main part of the church, and then adding that color along the roof line as well. Now taking I don't know, stencil brush, I guess is what these are. Technically, I don't like these brushes from the Dollar Tree, but just any kind of a brush you can get a little more color on, like a stencil brush. And then I'm just going to add a little bit more brown on there. I just didn't feel like it was quite enough, and I wanted to add some more depth to it. So I'm just going to go in and just add that color wherever I feel like it needs it. So pretty much I let my paintbrush guide me here. And I went ahead and added some more of this brown around the edges of my canvas as well, just to deepen it up and give it more depth. And I went ahead and made sure that I did the sides as well. You don't want to forget about those sides on your canvases. Then we're going to glue this down. Once it's glued down, I went ahead and used a dark gray color to fill in the windows and the door. So it just kind of looks like an old abandoned church at this point. And then I decided that I needed a little bit more of this kind of peach color in the background. I kind of wanted it to look like it was either a sunrise or a sunset. So I wanted to add in more of the orangey color. And I really love the effect that this had on the overall painting or picture project, whatever you want to say. Now I want to add some nature to my project. So I'm going to go in with this dried baby's breath. I thought that these looked like they could be trees for our church. They were the perfect size, and with the tops the way they are, to me they look like little trees. So I'm going to cut off a couple of pieces of this baby's breath, and I'll just glue that down along the sides of my church. And I love adding this green element. I think it just brought the whole project to a different level. So now I'm going to add some moss. And this is the reindeer moss. It is this beautiful green color, and I'm going to add it along the whole bottom of the church and then to the roof line, and then I'll just kind of give it a trim and make it just look like overgrown grass here. So now, since this is a spring project, I wanted to add some spring flowers to our project as well. So I'm just using these little tiny purple flowers that I cut off from a bigger bunch, and I thought they looked like little wildflowers growing in front of our church. Now I'm taking this rose gold metallic pen from the Dollar Tree. These are great pens. I'm going to write, let go, let God. And this is something that I have to remember often, because sometimes I try to do it all when I shouldn't. But we all know how that goes sometimes. So what do you think of this project? I really love this one. I think it turned out beautiful. I love that artistic style, and this one is definitely one that comes out every spring. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed these projects. Leave me a comment and let me know which was your favorite. Also, if you can do me a huge favor by hitting that like button on your way out, I would appreciate it so much. As always, I hope you have a happy, healthy, and blessed day, and I will see you at the next video. Bye!